think Citadel and Ken Griffin might feel that one. For those of you who weren't here earlier when I mentioned it, 8 p.m. tonight, 9 p.m. tonight, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, we're going to host a Twitter SpaceCall/YouTube live stream, and we are going to discuss Ken Griffin's most recent whereabouts on the public available information of where his jet has been recently. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Check it out right here or on Twitter. Stone23 says, "What's up, Boss Blunts? Love your content. I think investors shouldn't be asking for a class action lawsuit. We want the big bag of money, not a $5 check." You know, you probably make a good point, but it seems that maybe that Florida lawsuit, even if it doesn't yield much, that is actually just that is a civil suit. That's not a criminal case. But that wouldn't change anything that's going on in the stock market. That's just between them particularly. So thank you so much, everybody, for your support. You guys have been incredible. Truly. And again, Stock Swinger, thanks again, brother. You rocked. You're too cool, man. I know you've shouted me out several times on the channel, and guys like you and Jackson Hunter and you know, Houston Wade and stuff. You guys have helped us to become, you know, to become a stronger community together. When we weren't sure what's going on, or when we were, you know, curious as to what's happening, and we come to you and we try to provide the best information possible. Days to cover is at up to 2.80 according to FinTel. Volumes over 100 million for the first time since September 7th. Why? I believe, as we can see here, you know, I believe is because today was the last day of the fiscal quarter, the last day of the fiscal year as well. So a lot of those shorts had to be covered. As you can see, the volume was super dry all day, very, very low. They prepared for this for the last 2 weeks, kept keeping the price down, and then jumped straight up to the $41.60 mark. And wow, I think I've got a treat for you guys here.
Well, you know,
I sure do. Check this out.
When Robinhood shut down one of the parts of the trade,
We've got Mark COHODES
the buy side,
speaking on Citadel, Robinhood, MIMEDX, and corruption.
This whole,
let me turn the volume down over here on this.
Joe Sixpack, when that happened, I just thought was beyond unfair, and it was something I had never seen before in my life. And
let me adjust some settings here.
It corresponded with the time where Citadel made an investment in Melvin, which makes absolutely no sense. And Ken Griffin said that Melvin or Plotkin was one of the greatest investors he's ever seen. If he was such a great investor, why didn't he invest in his fund when his fund opened year 1, 2, 3, or 4? Why would you invest in a guy who's 3 days from going out of business? None of this makes any sense. It is literally the big lie. And I've talked to Senator Warren's people.
Wow.
And I've talked to him frequently, and I spoke to him as recently as yesterday. And one of the things that needs to happen is the government needs to have a fact-finding mission to find out what the fuck really went on. None of this bullshit, none of this lobbying, none of this grandstanding. Find out exactly what went on, what laws were broken, and fix it so it doesn't happen again. Because what's going to kill this system the next go round is the excessive use of leverage. And Citadel is so hyper leveraged, it's not even funny. So what I think what went on, and again, hopefully one day it comes out, is I think Citadel was absolutely sideways in all of these MEME stocks, and they had to stop the bleeding. And they had to stop the bleeding, so they counteracted Melvin, so he didn't have to cover anymore. And it wouldn't surprise me.
Mark COHODES did the recent interview with Lisa Commissar, I believe her name is, Lucy Commissar,
because Bernanke
exposing and discussing a lot of things on the market.
Citadel paid Janet Yellen God knows how much to speak over the years. And I think I could sit through about 21 seconds of Janet Yellen before I'd fall asleep. So paying her to speak is not what I'd call, you know, making sense. So I just think that people, individuals, need to know exactly what went down, exactly what happened, and do something to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because unless there are changes, this will happen again and again. And, I filmed a movie last week in Portland, and you hear the stories about how much people lost that day when they flipped the switch. And it's just sickening and it's just not right. And, you can make investments that work and you win, God bless you. And if you lose, it's a shame. But at least it's a fair fight. At least it's fair. The markets then are fair.
That's great. Looks like
When
this
you
is
shut
being
off one
hosted
side
by
of the
Edwin
trade,
Dorsey, and his
you
speaker is
destroy
Mark
people.
COHODES.
And I'm amazed Robinhood still has clients. I'm amazed Robinhood's still in business. And the dirty little secret is Robinhood is
Only
not
has
run
17. Robinhood has
by
17 clients
greasy haired
only.
Vlad. No chance.
Oh, I'm
It's
sorry.
run by Gallagher,
I
who's a
meant
former
Citadel.
SEC commissioner, and you couldn't have an SEC commissioner running a brokerage firm. So Vlad is the face. I mean, I said on Twitter, I wouldn't trust Vlad running a lemonade stand.
Ernesto, he popped out of
So
nowhere because he's a short
what's
seller and he
going
was interviewed by
on
Lucy
is
Commissar and it was
horrible.
put on Reddit.
What went
And we
on
actually
is
go on there
really
to do due
bad.
diligence. So a lot of apes
And
have shared it. That's
the
why he came out of nowhere.
people of that Wall Street bets community or super stock, whatever they call themselves,
All of us came out of nowhere at some point.
it's one thing to talk about problems. And when I talk about problems, I usually don't unless I have a solution. But folks, you need to get together. You need to get together. You need to find a leader. You need to each donate 10 or 15 or 20 or $100. And you need to hire lobbyists and lawyers and take it to government the way Citadel does. Find out how much Citadel has paid politicians and lobbyists and this, that, and the other. It's a sick amount. And then you add in how much they've been fined, it's a sicker amount. So Joe Sixpack, who I've always
Margaret,
pulled for,
this is a live
always, and always
interview right
fought
now.
for,
This is
needs
as good as
to,
it's going to
you
get.
guys need to
The fact
band
that I'm able to
together
capture this
and
right now
organize to push this forward.
is just
Otherwise,
lucky, in
I'm
my
afraid
opinion.
you have no chance. Because I know how hard the fight
Thanks
is.
to Trade
and the
Tiger
fight
so much.
is
Trade Tiger is in Boss Blunt's think tank.
brutal.
He put us onto this.
So, Mark, what I think Robinhood would say in response, and this is in the lawsuit, and it's the third pinned tweet at the top of this space, is they got a $3 billion margin call from the direct
Yes, they
clearinghouse, DTCC. And they got a $3 billion margin call. They weren't going to be able to meet it. So the only thing they could do, their hands were tied, were to move all these meme stocks to position close only. Only allow people to sell them. Is there something logically wrong in that? Yeah, okay, Robinhood screwed up big time. The risk controls were terrible. They're not running a clean ship. But what would you have done if you got this $3 billion margin call? What were the other options Robinhood had on the table that might not have been moving this to position close only?
Perfect. What's the market cap of Robinhood right now? What's the market cap?
One sec,
I mean,
Mark.
It's like 30 billion, something like that. 30 billion?
Yeah, 36 billion.
Well, the one thing you do if you pay Citadel 300 million a year for order flow is I think you would call Citadel and say, you just gave Melvin $2 billion. How about loaning us $3 billion? We'll give you some equity on the cheap and we're going public in 3 months. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is just halting the stocks. And this is what really gets me. However many people are on here, I assume everyone trades stocks. I think everyone knows what their margin is or their buying power, their SMA is by the minute. You just if you're running a brokerage firm, not know where your capital is at any point in time. That's
right.
Why you have risk. That's why you have controls.
Margaret
That's
Holmes,
why
I am well aware, but this is not that 59-minute interview. This is a live stream. Thanks so much for sharing that, though. You guys can't find Mark COHODES' interview
and not only
on YouTube as well, but here's another interview that he's doing live right now with Edwin Dorsey. I would love to try to get in this and speak with him, but I want to hear him speak.
How are you fine 2 hours after the market closes and not fine at 3 in the morning? And then where did you raise the money? Just halt the stocks. I'm a 61-year-old man. I've seen all sorts of shit all across the world. I've never seen one side of the trade halted. Even even in Canada, even in Arctic Mexico, they let things trade. So I've never seen anything like that. It's amazing to me Robinhood still has customers. And then Robinhood went public and the stock went up, which is, again, I'm not short Robinhood. If I had a brain in my head, I probably would be, but I don't get it. I don't get it. And what I think should happen is the government should get some people who are retired, like myself and Ben Hunt, who actually give a shit about the system and give a shit about the country and give a shit about not destroying Joe Sixpack. And I'll get to the bottom of it. I'm not afraid of Ken Griffin. And I'm not afraid of Vlad. I'm not afraid of any of those clowns. But unless changes are made, these clowns will destroy the system. That I can guarantee. Because the next time it happens, it's going to happen off a much bigger base and more people are going to get hurt. So I hate it. I absolutely hate what's going on. And that's from a system standpoint. I'm not in any of the stocks. And if the stocks go up, great. If they go down, that's great too.
Mark, another thing that came out of this lawsuit that I think was absolutely nuts, and this is now the pinned tweet at the top of the space, is that Citadel's president and chief operating officer was trading a lot of these meme stocks during the short squeeze. And in one message to Vlad, he said, "I sold my AMC today. FYI, we are moving tomorrow to GME 100% closing, so you are aware." It's kind of crazy to me that the chief operating officer is trading these stocks and then selling out right before they move all the meme stocks to position close only. And everybody should click on that top tweet and see the lawsuit for yourself and look at the primary document, because I almost couldn't believe it. Mark, what do you make of that? Do you think that's something a regulator should look at? And do you think that if you were a regulator, what would you do in this situation about the Robinhood's chief operating officer trading AMC and selling all of it right before they move it to position close only?
To be kind, and I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a security regulator, I think, and I know plenty of former regulators, I think at a minimum, regulators and law enforcement should find this beyond interesting and they should drag everyone in and get to the bottom of it and let everyone know what's going on, because this is the kind of crap that breeds no confidence and it really upsets people a lot. Because when people lose a lot of money and they lose it unfairly, which they did in this case, and they see this kind of behavior, people really get pissed off. And if you ever want to work hard to lose confidence in a system, they're going about it in a very, very, very big way. And this is Citadel. I mean, payment for order flow, right? $300 million. Citadel is not paying Robinhood $300 million to lose $300 million. They're paying them $300 million to make. So if they're $300 million in the hole, they're going to make 400, 500, 600 on top of that. And how do people think they actually make their money? And they're making their money on the backs of Robinhood customers. So look, there's a lot of people I can't stand. I hate the smash and grab crowd, as you know. I hate corporate criminals, as you know. And I hate people trying to rip others off of their money. I hate it. But when you do it with such arrogance in such broad daylight, and the Cartoon Network treats Robin Hood and Ken Griffin and all these mucking, the billionaire guy here, the billionaire guy there, all you do is really, really, really piss off the working guy. You really piss him off, and you piss me off. And if I was a regulator or I ran the SEC, which was my dream job, but I think that ship has sailed, I would come down so hard on these guys, they wouldn't know which end is up. And if they heard my footsteps, they'd have twitches like Nocera has twitches. And wait a minute, and back to that Nocera thing, I went after that guy, and I wouldn't give up this mimetics fight for 2.5 years after that rat bastard wrote what he wrote. And I waited till all those whistleblowers had safe harbor. So the Citadel Robinhood thing bothers me a lot. Doesn't bother me as much as my medics. It bothers me a lot. And I think that if other people like believe what I have to say and understand what I have to say, they should try to like join up and try to push this thing and really push it because this my medics thing and Nocera losing his job and Truth winning out, it takes time, but the fight is worth it. That's what I'm thinking today.
Mark, one final question from me before we go to audience Q&A. And if you're in the audience and have a question for Mark, please request mic access and we'll start calling on people. Mark, I wanted to get your opinion on payment for order flow because there's a lot of controversy here. And what Citadel would argue, and I think there's some truth to this, is, we're providing better execution and at least on the equities trades, we're making money on the spreads, or we can, trade against it from our own book. Um, is it possible in your mind that payment for order flow results in as good or better execution for equity trades and option trades for retail investors? Or does payment for order flow result in worse prices than if you were just sending it directly to the exchange? And can you give us a flavor of how that works? Because I think, it's tough for even experts to wrap their head around.
Payment for order flow is illegal in many countries. It should be illegal here. It shouldn't exist. I believe in free markets. There's plenty of people in the brokerage business. It's not much to pay half a cent or a penny commission to trade stocks. Free isn't free. This is not the democratic way to get Joe Sixpack to invest in stocks. It's just a complete mess. I'd rather hit questions. I hate it. I hate anti-competitive behavior. I hate bullies. People, think I bully people? Hell no. If you only knew the backside of my life of what I go through, the threats I've had to overcome, the sheer hate for standing up for something you believe in, you'll then learn something, folks, about bullies. I hate this Ken Griffin using his clout to control what, 30 to 40% of the trades, option market making, hedge funds, payment for order flow. There's a dastardly side to it, and then we'll hit the questions. If they know what accounts are doing and people's patterns of trades, I think 90% of Robinhood trades or accounts are losers. I'm going to speculate because I don't want any hassles. I'll speculate that it wouldn't surprise me that Citadel just takes the other side of some of those trades. I think that needs to be looked into as well. Exactly how are these things executed? But that could be for different spaces on a different day. So fire away from the questions because there's a lot of ground and a lot of people have hit me with questions, and I just say we'll try to handle it on the spaces and see how all that goes. But I definitely think if the people, the Robinhood or the Reddit crowd, were to band together, not on how they trade, but on their ideas and on what's fair and on what happened, I think they can make progress. Because if they push hard enough, I think it's a election type of event. Because the stock market's big enough and there's enough leverage out there that at some point people are going to pay attention, and something's going to, the only way you can make change is you have to get someone's attention, and you can't just give up. And if the going gets tough, you just got to get tougher. So
Mark, sounds good. We have 900 people in this space. Let's go to questions. I'll start calling on people. And if people could keep the questions respectful and concise, I'd really appreciate it. Our first question, let's go to Tara Bull. I think, Tara Bull, we're adding you to ask a question. And go ahead.
Hi.
Turn your
There's a
mic.
little bit of a delay, so as soon as you let me up, as soon as you let speakers up, there's like a 5-second delay where I can't hear you guys. So I just had a statement more than a question in regard to the buy button being turned off by Robinhood and several other brokers. It's news to me that there was also an issue with people not being able to sell their call options at the same time. So that's one thing. Another thing was that Mark was talking about the boom that's going on. So we actually had a plane that was supposed to go into the air tomorrow for, kind of putting Ken Griffin on blast with Citadel. And he actually threatened or had a cease and disorder letter sent. So they're not able to get the plane in the air
What's
now
up,
at this
Stacy,
point,
Ghost,
which I think is
Pam,
pretty crazy.
Stock Swinger,
What are your thoughts on that,
Daydream,
Mark?
everybody.
I was just
Thanks so much for your
curious.
support. Stone.
Well, Ken
and
Griffin
Chad.
has a lot
Thank
of
you, guys.
money, and Citadel has the best of lawyers, and they're a revolving door with the government, so they have former of everyone there. But at some point, it becomes a David versus Goliath thing, and at some point, there's the court of law and the court of public opinion, and they're going to lose the court of public opinion big time fast. And I keep putting it out there. Why did Citadel give Melvin $2 billion? Not only why did he give him $2 billion, for him to say he's generationally one of the best money managers out there, I'd put Plotkin in the bottom 5% of everyone I know. I think he's not good at all, and he has no risk controls. But really, the part about giving Melvin $2 billion, why did he then go 6 months later and take out $500 million? It makes no sense. So I think, Tara, flying a plane, that's sort of like pissing on a house fire, or a 350-pound guy drinking Diet Coke. It's going to take a lot more than flying a plane. It's going to take real people doing real stuff, getting together and saying, look, Holmes, you screwed me out of my hard-earned money through this, and we need answers. And there's 600,000 of us, and we all vote. And if you don't think this is an issue, we'll try and vote you all out, or do something.
That's my next question. How do we vote you in?
You're not. That's just that ship.
We
has
need
sailed.
you.
Okay, I good. My son needs me alive, as does my wife, and I don't need. Look, one day when all's said and done, I will write a book and I will expose everything and everyone for what they've done and what really goes on. What really goes on. But people can't really digest what goes on yet, because it's sort of mind bending. But this Robinhood, Citadel, Melvin is a good place to start. But keep pushing, Tara. But we got to do better than fly
Yeah, we're
planes.
hashtagging like crazy. The ape community is going ham. I mean, we're really trying to get the word out there. I don't know. I'm sure you're aware of Charles Payne and how outspoken he is. He's basically the only one who speaks up on our behalf as far as mainstream media goes. But he's the guy. I don't know if it's possible to get you on an interview with him, but I think that would be an amazing thing to see happen.
After the spaces, I'm back hiding under a rock. Okay,
thank you guys for letting me up.
Okay,
next one, Edwin.
Awesome, Chris, can you ask a question, Chris?
Yeah. So I got a quick question. Mark, I know you constantly refer a lot to smash and grab crowd. Just in regards to that and those, and I'm mainly asking about ones that are activist short or short research firms that also whether it's their fund or whatever, ones that basically manage outside money for people. That you had some issues with some people, but for those people, in the sense that they put out a short report that they're genuinely, they believe is accurate in regards to a company, but it does not make sense for them to hold the position in their fund because they're, arguing with maybe a very irrational market, and they're basically trying to protect investor capital, and they, inherently have potentially a fiduciary obligation to do so. How come, or how would you differentiate those that you consider a smash and grab, which seems to be everybody that puts out any short that you disagree with? No offense, but like how do you differentiate that? And argue that they're doing the best thing for their investors and their capital to protect it, as opposed to just, make their point, which they might very well be right about. But the market's not reacting that way.
Okay. Hey, that's a fair question. Here's the way I'll go with it. If I go and put out that a stock is worth $1 or a fraud or should be delisted, and I believe in that work, I believe in what I said, I should be in that stock longer than 6 to 24 hours. I don't give a rat's ass about their fund. If you don't believe it, that you can't be in a position for 24 hours, you shouldn't write the report. And you should also use your own name and not hide behind some alias. So this fiduciary thing is a bunch of shit. I used to run a fund. I was short my medics forever. I had the FBI knocking on my door for stories that never even were true about threatening that fellow. If you write it and you believe it, you should believe it in enough to be there for a period of time. I'm not saying you should be in it for 5 years, but you can be in there for 2 weeks, a month, or your story to play out. But all this bullshit about writing reports, they only write one report, you never hear from them again. It's just bullshit. It's just absolute bullshit, and I hate it. I hate it. I like the research. I like the ideas. I have no problem with the stories. I have no problem exposing the frauds. What I have a problem with is telling people that the stock is worth $1. Those people sell the stock, and you're on the other side of the trade. It's the same thing with that lowlife guy, Gentile, who sued me twice for defamation. I beat him twice, and he paid my lawyer fees twice. He used to pump up a bunch of garbage stocks to unsuspecting people on whatever story he would use, and he would sell it. So there's smash and grab, which I hate, and there's pump and dump that I hate. And if you like something and you're going to go on the record and tell people you like it, you should like it enough to sit with it for at least 6 to 24 hours. That's the part I don't like about it, Chris.
Thanks for that question, Chris. Our next question is going to be from Joshua. Joshua, if you can unmute and ask a question, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Good afternoon, guys. I appreciate you guys doing the panel, by the way, and answering all of our questions. It means a lot. Real quick, so I wanted to address Citadel's PR attempt and kind of their piss poor attempt at damage control that we recently saw on Twitter. After what we see 9 months of silence, right? They just came out January 27th. That was the last time they spoke. A day before, they ended up doing a sale for close on all their securities and equity. So I just wanted to see what you guys thought about that. And then also, I don't know if you guys saw their tweets today. Essentially, they're talking about a live chat they had with Robinhood the day of them taking away the sell button, saying that they learned that day. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. And I think it's odd timing too, especially how they're doing it almost like a live feed a day before or 2 days before the $1 trillion requirement by banks who are also kind of funding these guys. So just wanted to get your guys' thoughts.
I think Citadel realizes that they're losing the court of public opinion quickly. I think it's like a ping pong ball with a big hole in it going right down the drain. They seem like they're okay, but I think they're scared to death because they realize when the facts come out or people were to focus on the real facts and the real issue, I think they know they're fucked. And I think they're trying to spin. I think they're trying to play their games with the Cartoon Network. I know Sorkin. I like Sorkin. These guys are all captives to these guys. They could give a shit about Joe Sixpack. They could care less. Most people could care less about the guys who are in Robinhood. They could care less. So in order to get people to care, you have to bring up the issues that hit them the most, and that is money. And that's what Ken Griffin cares about, money. So he can buy another building in Manhattan, so he can get more money, so he can control more things, so he can control more flow. I mean, Citadel is 10 times more dangerous right now because they're so leveraged than Goldman Sachs ever was. Goldman Sachs looks like kindergarten boys compared to Citadel. So these guys need to try to play the game in the court of public opinion, and they're going to try to make things go away. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But if my energy works on what I'm spending time on, and real people in the government who want to fight for Joe Sixpack care, then the game's on. But they want people to focus on all this failed to deliver and hypothecating shares and naked shorting. That is a loser's argument. That will not work. What will work is focusing on what went down, who knew what. And look, that guy Vlad, that guy could not answer, what's 3 plus 7 divided by 2. He could not answer how much water you mix with lemonade to sell at the stand. He is the face. The guy who runs Citadel is Gallagher, who's a former SEC commissioner. That's the guy. He's the high price guy. And it's the focus on what went down, how it went down, and to get real answers, which haven't appeared. It just hasn't appeared. The stock market's gone up. Everyone thinks it's fine. The media has swept it under the rug. And, the folks who call themselves apes, I give them credit. They're driven that they won't give up. But you got to focus on what the issue is. And the issue is very simply money, over leverage, and screwing Joe Sixpack. That's what it is. That is the show.
And Joshua, I love that question about regulators. I just want to highlight that a link to the full lawsuit is pinned at the top of this tweet and some at the top of this space, and some screenshots from the lawsuit are also pinned at the top of this space so people can read it for themselves. Another thing I would just highlight briefly is there's this concept of regulatory capture, where over time, big industry almost always captures the regulator to not necessarily control it, but have undue influence over it. And when you see
I've been trying to
Citadel
get in
paying
there, but he
Janet
won't give
Yellen
me the microphone. So
$700,000
maybe Edwin
or
doesn't
something
know
like
me.
that
Maybe
for a
he doesn't
speech,
care
and
who
you
I
see
am. I'm sure there's a long
Robinhood
line.
hiring
That's
a
okay. I'm
former
nobody
SEC
special.
commissioner
But
and
I am
paying him
trying to get, I do
millions
have my
and
hand
tens of
raised.
millions of
I've been trying
dollars
to
in
get the mic
stock
for a
grants.
while.
It's like all
Maybe
that
he'll let me
makes you
speak,
lose a
maybe
little
not.
faith in the
But Mark is
regulatory
bringing up great
system.
points anyway.
And things aren't necessarily black and white. It might not be that Citadel explicitly told Robinhood move stuff to position close only, but there's definitely a huge gray zone between explicitly telling them and exerting no influence whatsoever. And I think this lawsuit casts a lot of doubt on them exerting no influence whatsoever. With that though,
and to that end, right? I'm of the type where if I make a mistake or I fuck up, I say, you know what? I made a mistake. If I'm overly hard on somebody, I apologize. I had a run in with a Canadian regulator once, and the guy was very helpful, and he was a really good guy. And he wasn't supposed to talk to me, but he talked to me. And someone snitched on him, and he got fired. And it was wrong. It was wrong that they did that to him. It was wrong that they said he couldn't talk to me because I corresponded with him. And I felt so shitty that this guy got fired because he talked to me. I reached out and did whatever I could to try to make it right. That's how bad I felt. And these guys at Citadel and Robinhood should feel like absolute crap. And what they should do is they say, we made a mistake. We need to make it
Well, the
right.
concerning part is
right?
they're making it. I don't know if you saw it. They're saying that we're essentially the equivalent, or they made an analogy to us basically being conspiracy theorists, saying that we didn't land on the moon, when there's factual evidence of this happening.
Well, fine, right? I've lived the big lie because I've had people attack me countlessly, whether it's Learnout, whether it's a Remisoft, whether it's MediaVision, whether it's MyMedics, whether it's Novastar, doesn't matter. That I'm a liar, I'm a fraud, I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I was right. Home Capital Group, Concordia, I can go on and on and on. You're not wrong, and you're not conspiracy theorists. But what you have to do is say, you need the truth to come out. You need the truth. You don't need rhetoric, Ken, or Plotkin, or Vlad, or Gallagher. You need the truth. And Mark COHODES does not have subpoena power. If I did, I'd get to this thing in about a month. It would be figured out. It doesn't take long. The question is, does the government have the will to expose it and get to the bottom of it? That is the $1 million question. But
fair enough. And let's move on to some more questions. I love getting questions up here. We're going to go to Emily for the next question, and then after that, Drew. But Emily, go ahead.
Hey guys, more of a two-parter. One, how do we feel about Robinhood's capitalization, in terms of not being able to cover all of those AMC long positions? And secondly, do you guys have an AMC GME price target?
How do I feel about Robinhood? I mean, Robinhood has a market cap, I don't know, somewhere between 15 and 50 billion probably. So now they can just raise money or do whatever for their things. I mean, I wouldn't have a dime at Robinhood.
But to be clear, the reason they couldn't execute these orders was because of their capitalization, right?
I mean, honestly, Emily, I don't really know the reason, nor do you, nor does anyone right now. I mean, who knows? You think they're truthful? Do you think they've been? I mean, on Monday they have one story. On Tuesday we got another story. Then we have insiders trading in the stock. I don't know what to believe. Right? I mean, I would have zero confidence in anything with Robinhood. Zero. Now, they can say whatever they want. I just don't believe a word of what they say. I mean, when you have the CEO getting on Cartoon Network saying we don't have a margin call or a capital issue or liquidity issue, and blank hours later they're $3 billion short, I wouldn't trust that guy straight in my stock drawer. So that's just me. I mean, there's a lot of brokerage firms to choose from. Pick whichever one you want. And in terms of AMC, I couldn't tell you within $10 where AMC trades. If you're long it and it goes up, I'm happy for you. If you're short it and it goes down, I'm happy for you. This is not about the stocks for me. This is about how people have been treated, leveraging the system, and not telling the truth.
Sounds good. And I would also highlight, I don't have AMC or GameStop stock personally, and I'm not short. I'm just interested in more of the mechanics behind it. And with that, let's go to Drew for our next question. Drew, and then after that, we're going to go to the good householder. But Drew, go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, so my question really has to do with market structure. So right now in the kind of payment for order flow model, right, you've got market makers paying these brokerages for retail flow, and that flow is like reasonably non-toxic, right? Like it's not directional. The reason it's valuable to market makers is because like it's pretty random statistically in the aggregate. And so I guess my question is, I'm curious to understand your lens for thinking about why it's a good thing that retail flow should be directed onto exchange and like be allowed to interact with like reasonably more toxic flow from like quant funds and hedge funds and market makers that are doing prop style trades and the like. Like it seems to me like the model that exists right now is really one where you basically have non-toxic retail flow segregated from anonymized trading on exchange. I guess what I really want to hear is like what your ideal market structure looks like and why it should be that way.
That's a good question. I'm gonna try to simplify the response because I don't know the level of sophistication to the crowd that's listening to this. Is that fair? So people in the program trading algorithm business reached out to me after the Portnoy podcast, and they explained to me how firms like Citadel and others who pay for flow can run algorithms against certain kind of people on how they do, and they know how those stocks can correlate and know how to trade against them. I am a free market guy. When you get an order, you enter the order on the exchange, the order goes through. That's how you get price discovery. If you want to buy it and the stock goes up, great. If you want to sell it, stock goes down, great. And there's a lot of guys who can do business other than Citadel. And I think you shouldn't have to pay for business. I think business should be routed to whatever exchange, platform, whatever, to give everybody the best price. It may take longer. It may move markets more. I don't care. It just gets everyone on the same page. And if for no other reason, it ends this discussion of payment for order flow, which again, as I said earlier, is illegal in certain countries across the world. So there's clearly something about it that certain countries do not like. And that's my view. Does that answer it at all for you?
Yeah, I think that answers it.
Okay, thank you.
Fair enough. And our next question is from the Good Householder.
Hey guys. Hey Edwin. Thanks for setting this up. Mark, thank you again. Greetings from Arctic Mexico. Might be a bit of a strange question coming from Canada, but Mark, you had mentioned that people are going to have to organize and kind of rally the troops in order to try to make an impact here in the U.S. and some of the stuff that's been going on. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts in terms of who are some potential allies, in office, in government, or in the media that people can, start to tag or try to bring this to their attention so that it becomes, a more conscious movement going forward. Any people in particular that we can focus on?
Well, I'd focus anyone in Elizabeth Warren's office. I'd focus on anyone in Sherrod Brown's office. I'd focus on John Tester's office. I would focus on the senator from the great state of Pennsylvania. I'm drawing a blank. His last name begins with a T. I would focus, way back when business was pushing workers around, there started to be something called a union. Unions were formed, and it gave workers rights so they weren't beat up by their employer. I think if the crowd were to form, if for lack of a better word, a union, and say there's 700,000 of us and we all vote and we're all organized and we all have rights and we all can lobby just like these other guys and we can all hire lawyers like these other guys, maybe someone who's running in, the 5th district of Arkansas will realize that this is a big issue and he'll support them. I know the Warren crowd believes in this. I know that. And I know that the government needs money. And my idea of an excessive leverage tax, I think, is a really good one because I liken it to a basketball luxury tax. If you want to use excessive leverage to burn the system down, at least get the shit taxed out of it. So when the system does burn down, you don't have to tax Joe Sixpack. You just use the excessive leverage tax. Now, I know banks would hate it, and those guys lobby big. But I think it's a fair way to go. If you use excessive leverage, you should pay for it, and that doesn't affect rates. But I think, people need to get together and write letters, call, organize, and say they need the full story of what went on. Some of the Reddit crowd reaches out to me and says
Margaret,
they're
thank you
waiting
so
for
much
the
for your
SEC
support and
report.
donation
Well,
to the channel.
you're
Thank
going
you
to
so
be
much.
waiting
25% of all
about
donations are
the
going to
year
charity.
2222
This month it's going to United
if you're
States
counting on the
Veterans,
SEC.
Gary Sinise charity. Thank you, Margaret. Appreciate you.
If you're
I know you've
waiting
been
for
supporting
that, you're going
in
to be
Twitter
waiting
and
a
on
very
YouTube for
long
many
time,
months now.
and you're going to be deeply
All of
upset.
you guys are out
It's
there.
going to
Thanks for
take
sharing. Thank you for
someone
liking.
saying we've had enough. Someone other than Janet Yellen, who's captive to Citadel, someone other than Bernanke, who's captive to Citadel, and find out who
Let me
the
cover her
Citadel
ears.
lobbyists
Ken Griffin,
are
I
and
want my fucking money.
hire other ones. but it's a mess.
Fair enough. Great question. Let's go to our next question. Finn Watchdog. Go ahead and ask a question, Finn Watchdog.
Thanks, thank you, Mark. I wanted to ask a quick question. Back in March, this has been on my mind since then, and I've never really found a good answer since then. One of the original due diligences posted to the community in March by Adabit, it's called the Everything Short. You may have read it. Mentioned how Citadel use another arm called Palafox Trading to sell about 123 billion in U.S. Treasuries to the federal government, and they're all
baby
for
boss.
the most part rehypothecated. And that is allegedly the deal here. I didn't do
Oh, good.
too
He
much
just asked about how popular rehypothecation is.
I'm curious if you have
question.
any idea how pervasive that is throughout the hedge fund, the big $100 billion funds. Is this a pervasive tactic?
That's just, I think your question's a good one. It's just well over my pay grade, and I only want to speak to stuff I know stuff about, and this is
Frosty Balls said, scooped up another 25 shares today. Grab yourself another one on me, homie. Thank you, Frosty Balls. Thank you very much for your support, brother. You are the best. You are too kind.
Living the dream.
We all are, brother.
Thanks again, Frosty.
My question is, you talked about organizing and making sure that we are being heard. I mean, from what I gather, we're constantly doing that, and we're constantly finding ways to evolve as things further come out. As you know, we've been pushing the buttons that we could push because, like you said, no one really knows. We can guess, we can ponder, but the DD and the research, we keep digging, and we keep finding. And I think my biggest question for you is, do you think that we're headed in the right direction? I mean, I personally feel we do. We are, but at the same time, I'd like to know what your thoughts on it is.
Who's we?
The AMC community, the apes, this community that we built behind all of these things that happen in GameStop, that we're pushing for free and fair markets. It's millions of us all over the world, and we connect and communicate in Discords. We connect and communicate through our YouTubers. We connect and communicate through our Twitter guys. That's how we stay connected with CEO Adam and the rest of the people.
I'm aware. So, yeah, you ask a really good question. There's the guy who runs GameStop and the guy who runs AMC.
Yeah, Eli, I agree with you, but that's okay. Everyone
business,
deserves to speak.
Right? Their focus should be running their business, and the stock will take care of itself. That's why I view those guys. In terms of the apes, if you will, as I see that community, and again, I filmed something in Portland last week with the Mulligan brothers, and this thing's coming out.
There's over 500 people in this right now.
And I understand that part, but the thing about it is like you said, the CEOs.
Another 500 in this YouTube stream.
Hello?
I don't know what happened, Mark. Mark, go ahead and answer that.
So I think the focus needs to simply be, Senator Warren, I lost $19,000 the day the one-way trading occurred. I was up $29,000 prior to that and lost the rest of my money the next week and a half. Everyone, and I speak for 1.7 million people, need to know exactly what went on behind the decision to make the one-way trading stop. We're very uncomfortable with the CNBC appearance by Vlad, who said they don't have a margin problem. Then they did have a margin problem. We're very upset that Ken
$2
Griffin,
billion worth.
who's Robinhood's largest revenue stream with payment for flow, invested in a hedge fund called Melvin, which was going out of business and had the other sides of our trade. We're, and this is
Got my
A
hand up,
through
Richie.
ZZ.
Trying to get a question,
Written
but
by a
there's a
lawyer,
long line.
presented by lobbyists.
Understandably so.
So there are facts, there's a real complaint, and there's real wrongdoing. Then, in my mind, you got a shot. You have a shot of someone saying 1.6 million people were completely screwed. They got screwed here. It can happen again. There's been no answers. People are resisting subpoenas. That's, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, so no one try to come down on me on defamation or any bullshit like that. I'm entitled to my opinion. That, I think, gives the community a shot. Everything else, I think, is a waste of time.
Great. Our next, Mark, it's been about an hour. I got 2 more questions queued up. Do you have time for 2 more questions?
I can go 15 minutes more, then I got something else cooking. So whoever wants to ask, say it now or forever hold your peace.
Awesome. We got 1,500 people in this space, by the way. LSF, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me up. I've been seeing some of these technical terms tossed around, like the naked short ladder, and to a lesser extent, sometimes people say bond melting. And I was wondering if you could just explain these, the process as you would to a layperson, just so we don't take these for granted, because I haven't really seen super clear explanations of how this market manipulation is operating.
Well, that's a really good question, and some people have asked me that, and I don't know what the hell those terms mean, and I view myself as a very sophisticated guy. There's market manipulation that goes on, but it goes on a completely different and more dangerous level than that. And if you don't, I don't want to get too deep into conspiracy theories with the shorting ladder or this, that, and the other. It's follow the money and who said what, when, where, and how, and track the truth and the lies. That's where you can go. All this other stuff is just designed to get you very confused. And when you're confused, you make no sense. And when you make no sense, people don't pay attention to you. So you need it specific, and everyone needs to get the story down so the 8th, 9th, 10th graders can understand.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great.
Janet Yellen confirms a lot.
Scenario, both for payment forward.
I know there was no sound, guys. I was messing with my settings. I apologize for the delay.
Okay, those are good questions. There's a few of them in there. Quickly,
Good
I
old
hate
Janet
payment for
Yellen
order
confirmed.
flow. I don't like it at all. Orders should
Watch
be
this 1 second.
executed on the floor.
The question was
Payment for
on
order
hold
flow
in the
and
chat.
black box stuff allows people like Citadel to take the other side of any trade if they want to. It doesn't need, as you would say, to be executed on the floor. And let me make this real simple, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. If I was a bookie, and this is before gambling was legal with all these outfits, and my customer base, I had 5 gamblers who lost 90% of the time, the way Robinhood accounts do, I wouldn't take the bets to my boss. I would just take the other side of the bet. I would say this gambler is wrong 90% of the time. This poor bastard bets on the Oakland Raiders. They're losers. I'm just going to take the other side, because 90% of the time, these traders and these trades lose. So I think everything should be executed. I think it makes it more competitive. I think it makes it fair. I think it means it makes sense. And there's no questions to be asked. What could Robinhood have done differently? They didn't need to spend their money on Super Bowl ads. They didn't need to spend money trying to, with all their stuff about how do you run ads saying we want to make the stock market more democratic to get first-time people in, and we'll let you trade for free. We have no controls. We have no risk controls. We have no capital controls. We don't know where we are on margin on any given minute, hour, or day. We then get on TV and say we're fine when 10 hours later we owe $3 billion. That guy should be fired on the spot. Whoever was running Robinhood should be gone. I mean, if this shit happened 10 years ago, the place would be seized. And there's email traffic that says we're too big to fail, which is another problem. No one should be too big to fail. If you fail, you should fail. If Joe Sixpack fails, you go bankrupt and no one gives a shit about you, right? No one gives a crap. If your family's hungry and you go rob a 7-Eleven and you steal 5 pizzas, 2 6-packs of Coke, some candy, and they arrest you, they'll put you in prison. But they can cost you $5 billion of your hard-earned money, and they keep their job, they get a bonus, and their stock goes public. It is just fucked up. So what should change is anyone responsible at Robinhood or who ran the place should lose their job instantly. And the government, whether it's the SEC or the DOJ or whoever have you, should come down on these clowns so damn hard, right? Their heads get caved in. That's what should happen, because then it wouldn't happen again. Or at least you'd have a comfort that it won't happen again. And I'm here to tell you, unless there's changes, it will happen again. And I don't need to be proven right if the system's a mess. And I don't need to be proven right if 1 million people lose all their money. That would make me sick to my stomach. I mean, the time to fix things that are
This
broken
is why we got to make
is
changes
when the
right
market's
now.
at an all-time high and everyone's all happy and everything's great. Not when things are fucked up. And,
we need changes.
And again,
Time.
Right? I fought the fight with this MIMEDX. There's an 81-year-old guy who bribed a senator to get the FBI to come to my house and told me to shut the fuck up. And I didn't. And when that true story comes out, and it will come out one day, it will make people's hair fall out. And if I can endure that crap, you Robinhood guys can all get together and fight a little harder. Because I'm telling you, the fight is goddamn mighty here. It is mighty.
Fair enough, Mark. You're always fighting for the underdog. We got 3 final questions to end this Twitter Spaces. First, we're going to go to Lily, then we're going to go to Nick, and then we're going to end with Unusual Whales. Lily, come up and ask your question.
Hi, Mark. Just quickly, I want to point out that I think the senator in
I think Edwin doesn't want me to talk.
Toomey.
That's the fellow.
What's the matter,
also,
Edwin? I've been shouting out your channel this whole
Robinhood
time, man.
The marketing
bullshit.
that they do. How
Bullshit.
is that full disclosure in marketing? Aren't there SEC rules that prohibit saying something's free when it literally is not? The SEC has so many different ways to get to these guys. They're just doing nothing. And then
Edwin doesn't like that my name is Boss
point I wanted
Blunts.
to make or ask about is this more or less the same issue as that was brought about in the book Flash Boys by Michael Lewis about high frequency trading and dark pools and paying for order flow? Because that's the big question for me, because those people, Michael Lewis has a lot of clout, and nothing happened after the publication of Flash Boys. It wasn't, they were tried. Actually, they went on I don't know which Cartoon Network, and they were tried. I think they tried to hush them up. If I don't recall incorrectly, I think it was Brad Katsuyama.
Well, you asked some good questions there, and it gets it really gets back to a test of will. You know, if you write a book and you go on a book tour and you talk about it for a month, and then you drop it, no one gives a shit. And paint the thing, spray paint black stripes on it, and I can call it a zebra. It's still a fucking white horse, right? It's all the same kind of deal, and it's all done for these fast guys to make money at the expense of others. And Toomey is important because Toomey and Sherrod Brown both have to agree before there's subpoenas that fly around. So that's why, you know, if you're from Pennsylvania, you should push Toomey hard. If you're from Ohio, you know, you push Sherrod Brown hard. You got to push these guys hard. And again, the problem is you can't give up, and you have to figure out the message that's going to play. And it's all designed. I mean, I had breakfast with a guy, and Edwin, it may go a touch longer, a guy in Portland. He reached out to me because he knew I was there doing the filming. And he said, I really want to meet you, blah, 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 blah. And I said, how do I know you're not going to kill me? And he says, I won't. You can check me out. And I said, I'm busy with these guys. But if you can meet me to, you know, if you want to drive into town, which I think is 3 hours, I'll have breakfast with you. And I met him. And I said, I just wanted to meet you just to hear how you do things and how you work and how you think. And he got caught up, and he lost a lot of money in that Robinhood thing, but it caused him to think that he better think for himself. And he came up with his own ideas. And I was really impressed with the guy. And you know, people can figure this out. They can get to the bottom of this mess if you just don't give up, think things through. And if you feel you're cheated, raise your hand. Because I think the individual, if they, I don't mean to sound like that. I think people, if they can think for themselves and say, this makes sense, I think they got a better chance than these dope ass institutions. I mean, Plotkin, I know him, and he's a nice enough guy, right? But he is not a guy I would give a dime to. He's just not. I'd
Cheers,
rather
everybody.
give
Great
money
day
to my
all
buddy
around.
who I met in
Good
Portland,
life.
who's
Good day to
long
be alive.
uranium,
Good day on the
coal,
stock
and
market.
gas,
For at
because he
least for
said
us.
if the economy
I don't
was
know about
going to come
everybody
back,
else.
people need energy. And the guy's up 60% this year. So, you know, you never know who I'll talk to, who I'll run into, what I have to say. But, you know, I'm trying hard for everybody. I'll tell you that.
Awesome, Mark. We got two final questions to end this space. Next question's from Nick. Last question from Unusual Whales.
Let's
Nick,
go
ahead.
Unusual
Awesome.
Whales.
Thanks a lot, Edwin and Mark. Thanks so much for all your time.
Cheers.
And, education and information that you're sharing. I think your experience is much needed, and your passion and all the stuff you've done throughout your life is inspiring, frankly. So my question is, and I want to go back to the $3 billion that was, given to our friends over there with more money than brains, as you put.
Yeah.
If you, let's assume that you were the all powerful Sith, and you had your hands in sort of every corner of this market, and you were sideways, as you put, in all of these meme stocks, and upwards of over 100% of the float short some of these names that went up to 300%. What would you have done with that $3 billion? And are you able to speculate at all at what you think might have been done to try to clean up the mess? And to take that a step further, do you think there's any chance that it's not all the way cleaned up?
Those are really good questions. What the ultimate problem and what's going to cause the mess is the excessive leverage in the system. The leverage needs to be drained out. The government took rates down so people could loan money to do things, expand their business, grow, things like that. They didn't give people money for stock speculation. So leverage needs to be taken out. If too many people were short, they should have covered at whatever price. lose if they would have gone out of business. That's what markets are about. And things should have been allowed to pass through rather than the government play the role of God and screw Joe Sixpack to the benefit of Ken Griffin and those guys. I mean, flat out, Melvin should have gone out of business. Flat out, Melvin and people who had his trade should have gone out of business. That would have been a lesson in what goes on. Instead of screwing the average guy, if you made a bad trade, you lose money, you pay the consequences. You either play again or you learn your lesson. That's life.
For sure.
I mean, life's not perfect. People.
SpaceCall is cutting out a little bit, so I'm not sure what the delay on the sound is there. So I apologize for that. But this guy, Mark COHODES,
and
they're back. He's
I
been
just
great
feel
so far.
bad for the people who got screwed, and I hope there's change. I
Real
really
quick,
do.
I'm going to squeeze one more in before I jump.
Yeah, man,
and
we all
that
remember.
is, are you
I remember
familiar at all with,
2008, 2000.
what's going on,
a lot of people remember.
on the Supersong community,
We
with
were all
people
affected.
trying to organize this direct registration of shares.
I think it's a complete
You think
waste
it's a waste
of time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Well,
Registration of shares through computer share is a
because you
complete
think
waste
that,
of fucking time.
They'll kick this can down the road as long as humanly possible if something legally isn't done.
I mean, look. If those folks are listening to me, look. If the market maker wants to short the stock without a borrow, they can do so legally until the cows come home and roll this, and it's perfectly legal.
Absolutely.
If you want to spend your time, organize, get the right, look, it is no surprise to anyone.
That's why it's
I'm
time
a
for a new
fan of
market
the Oakland
maker.
Raiders, who
One who's
happen
not
to be
manipulating
playing
the
every
market all
now
the
and
time,
then in
but
Las Vegas.
it's all just
But they're
speculation.
still the Oakland Raiders. It is very simple. It is cut and run. You come up with your best ideas, you find the best hole, you cut, and you go. All this naked shorting, hypothecating shares, re-register, this and the other, it's a waste of
waste
time.
of fucking time.
Don't hate me for it, but it's a waste.
Yeah, appreciate
Warren,
the honesty.
Elizabeth Warren, and I sure don't speak for anybody, they don't care about that stuff. They care about the man stealing money from Joe Sixpack. That is a political issue that they care about. I don't want to, that's my opinion. I don't need to get sued or hassled or anyone from anything. But they care about the real guy, right, taking money from the other guy. That's real. Re-registering shares, who the hell cares?
Awesome. Last question of the spaces will come from Unusual Whales. Go ahead and ask the question. I've really enjoyed this so far, so thanks everybody for listening. Go ahead, Unusual Whales, with the last question.
Hey guys, big fans, early subscriber to Edwin, recommend it. Big fan of Mark as well. Yeah, I noticed like Toomey was mentioned a few times. He's kind of like a pretty cool trader himself, and obviously elected official for quite some time. Kind of like just backstory, quick history. His son on like January 26th bought like $15K worth of GME. They still haven't sold it. Toomey himself also is like an incredibly good Tesla trader, and he also holds some crypto. So context, I suppose, is important here. Mark, I have two questions for you. Kind of. The first is like, do you want to see like a big second like congressional hearing? Do you think that's even necessary, or is it like just the court of public opinion will just get so loud? I mean, this is why this space is happening, from like a legal battle, and now the court of public opinion is making it possible. Do you think that's necessary? And my second question is kind of like, you mentioned the SEC a few times, and Gary Gensler has been kind of going on a speaking tour. Some people say no action, just a lot of talk. But given the high rate of like dark pool trading and a lot of meme names like GME and AMC, do you want to see the SEC uncover anything there, or do you feel that it's unimportant? Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about wash sales. How come nobody could ask about the short letter attacks and the wash sales? Jesus.
Court of public opinion, it's where it's going to have to start. And if it gets loud, and have an election coming up, they're going to pay attention. I think there are some very smart data centric people out there who can mine the internet, and they've come up with some great stuff lately. There's a movie I'm in. It's coming out next week. Sam Black is the director. It's coming out on Vice. I think that's the start of, that'll care greatly. Politicians need. I think he sounds clever. Someone needs to do something, and someone needs to do something fast. I mean, it's been too long. People are upset. When you get no action, the market's a confidence game, and consumers are paying more for everything. Rates will probably go up. I don't know. Someone, if you're paid, elected, and supposed to do a job, to me, you need to do your job. And I think if everyone did their job, whether you're in the Senate, whether you work at the SEC, whether you're in enforcement, whether you're compliance or risk controls at Robinhood, you need to do your job, because playing with other people's money is a very important responsibility, and they're not taking that responsibility seriously. And I just want everyone to know, Edwin and I go back to when he was a freshman.
SpaceCall's cutting out a little bit.
At
There we go.
Stanford. The guy works his ass off. Cares about people, and he cares about the issues, and he's not paid. I'm not paid. I don't care to be paid. But I think it's important to spread the word, and I think it's important that
Pam.
people
Thanks,
think for
everybody.
themselves, and they think
Appreciate you.
clearly, and they understand that, you don't have to like me. You can hate me. You can have whatever opinion you want. But everyone's entitled to an opinion. Everyone just needs to get their facts straight. And if you get your facts straight, and you try hard and you try to figure it out, everything I think will get much, much, much better. Because right now it's an absolute mess. So,
Well, Mark, this has been absolutely incredible. We have 1,800 people.
Oh yeah, it's been great. Would have been nice to be able to ask about wash sales and short attacks and other things like that, but I understand if I couldn't get to speak this time. Next time I'll speak to Mark directly.
Where I try to expose corporate misconduct as well. At the top of this space are a bunch of pinned tweets that include some of the source documents. The first pinned tweet has a link to the recent lawsuit against Citadel et al. That's really interesting to read. So I encourage people to check that out. And I just want to say thank you to
that was a good space call.
In. Mark, I think
that's why I love these things. They're a lot of fun to be a part of, a lot of fun to listen to.
It's the San Diego Chargers. I really do. Raiders have San Diego's old defensive coordinator. I think that's going to be the story. The Raider defense is going to show up, and I think the Raiders are going 4-0, and I'm getting excited about football I'm getting excited about football in Vegas, who has my team.
Look forward to crypto and stock trading on Lit Exchange.
How's that? That's I'm gonna throw everyone. I'm gonna throw everyone off. I'm gonna go a little Raider
education.
And just
about
remember,
the stock
folks,
market and crypto,
the autumn wind is a pirate.
100%.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Special thanks to Mark. We're done with this space. I'll leave it up for the 30 more seconds so people can follow Mark.
Edwin Dorsey.
And me.
Thanks to Edwin Dorsey for hosting this space.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much, Edwin Dorsey, for hosting the space. It's too bad I wasn't able to speak with him, but again, I made an effort. I had my hand up the whole time, but there was a lot of people waiting. Thankfully, we got some great speakers in there, like Tara Bull, Unusual Bears, Rogue Listener, and others. But we've got some fantastic minds in here. There was almost 2,000, around 1,800 people in this space call at one point, and people coming and going the whole time, as well as almost 500 plus viewers over here on YouTube. And this is going to be up so that people can come back and catch the SpaceCall, because I had no idea it was happening. If I had, I would have reached out to Edwin directly prior to this and discussed it more in depth. But I think that there's only one thing that really needs to be said, and that's this.
I want my fucking money.
Yeah, pretty much. I want my fucking money, Ken Griffin. These stocks are going to fly, I think. Today was a great day on the stock market. AMC was up almost 18%. Thanks, everybody, for your support. George, Christopher, Frosty, Pam, everybody, Margaret, everybody who donated and supports the channel, who subscribes. Please share. Please like it. If you think there's any good information out there, feel free to leave a comment. A lot of people enjoy leaving comments, especially if you leave a timestamp with your favorite part of the video. If you could do that, leave a timestamp at what your favorite part of the video was, or the SpaceCall, and that way maybe people can come back and click it and it'll forward them directly to that portion of it. So thanks again, everybody, for being here with us today. Tomorrow, October 1st, we have Phase 5 margin requirements. Trey Thompson asked, could we speak on the margin requirements for tomorrow? Tomorrow, all banks need to have $1 trillion and stress test for it. Let's hear old Yeller.
The possibility, there are issues relating to hedge funds, and the possibility of leverage there that can trigger financial run. There are issues
relating to hedge funds,
and the possibility
of leverage there
triggering financial runs. Topic. And
what do you think she's talking about?
Relating to hedge funds.
I'll leave you with that.
And
Janet Yellen is telling us that over-leveraging from hedge funds is going to lead to financial runs.
Trigger,
what did we see on AMC today? It was up almost 18% and then got shorted.
Topic. And there are issues relating to
have a great day, everybody. I'll see you later on tonight, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to have a SpaceCall. So that should be a lot of fun. It's going to be related to some interesting information, including the debt ceiling, among others. Okay.
And the possibility of leverage
financial
there
runs.
Can trigger financial runs. That's another topic. And there are issues relating to hedge funds, and the possibility of leverage there that can trigger financial runs. That's another topic. And there are issues.
Peace and wealth, everybody.
Hedge funds, and the possibility of leverage there that can trigger